Good day, everyone. Um, Picture this. You're a scuba diver or a person trying to look for a treasure in deep ocean, which is not that easy activity to do, which has a lot difficult to basically to master. And what I would say that I would say half of the people which are sitting in this area actually are these scuba divers. Basically, we're talking about problems or opportunities every person who is an owner of or the founder of a startup or the company is facing when looking for that particular opportunity. But the amazing thing is that whatever deeper we go, whatever, let's say, journey we empower, every time we come closer to something amazing. So I'm which is a company which I'll present a little bit later, which we have experienced this and embraced a special philosophy which we have embraced into two Japanese words. I don't know how the third is spelled, but we know what do they mean. First of all, the employees actually the ones which made our activities and our products and services to have purpose, which means they're not going to their job, they're not doing something which would be doing in other company. Actually, they're inventing things, they're making things matter, and they're actually the owners of the product they are building. The other thing is that alongside of our employees, we also have our customers, which are a part of our successful journey. And obviously, if these two guys or girls, depending on the situation, have built something, we embrace the value sharing or the knowledge sharing, depending on the outcome. In other words, we found a way actually for everybody to participate in so-called triangle, where everybody is a part of it and everybody is a winner. So if I'll take that philosophy to a bit more like a more, let's say, company management level, we can understand that this is a very typical organization we're talking about. So we may have a triangle, a power triangle, sometimes it's called, an old-type autocratic organization where the topmost decision is being made, which is transport to very bottom level. In these days, if I was doing this presentation about 2 years ago, that was something breakthrough, amazing. Not today. Half of the fintechs actually already know what the tribes is, and in one way or another actually are experiencing this. So the tribe is actually, in principle, when we take out the same triangle, we draw the lines, and we say that actually every piece of which is being surrounded by particular lines is actually somewhat autonomous. Or in other words, actually we split our organization to the business activities, and we call it a tribe. Looking further in the future, many companies actually may convert themselves into so-called enterprises, when the pieces actually are being split, and only small connections are still maintained, which is from the university level, they're called a corporate synergy, or corporate strategy, if you like. So that's a typical fintech, which has a very specific, let's say, attributes for this to be suitable. My name is Marijus. I'm the CEO of Paysera LT. Paysera is a brand which is either very well known, either you know nothing about it. When I was at Money 2020 conference, actually I was happy to know that every second person who's at least somehow connected to finance knows Paysera, because that's actually a group of financial institutions or banks which are across Europe, physically having offices in 9 countries, operating in at least 50 of them. We are 20 years in operation, celebrated birthday last year, and we have around 700 employees. But our typical approach is actually fintech, which means that the tech is a bigger part in the world, which means that at least half of the employees is actually IT. And whenever we're talking about the scaling or growth, which Paysera has experienced in the last 2 to 3 years, we are talking about IT growth. And this is very difficult because most of the, let's say, typical consultancies or typical methodologies, they always kind of are suitable up to a medium-level company, which is, I don't know, like 80, 100 people. They're completely not suitable afterwards. Now, that's exactly what happened with Paysera. We had about 80, we took Scrum by the book, like it is advertised, like it is required, and it started to not work anymore. The amount of people was growing, but delivery wasn't. The quality of the projects didn't increase. The amount of work actually decreased. But that was very typical, where every consultant which you may have hired or heard would say, how about you hire me for 20, 30, 50,000 euros, and I'll tell you what a SAFE is. SAFE, I didn't put that as a picture, typically do, but this is a really complicated advanced Scrum scaling methodology, which would theoretically give you an answer, how do you grow? In my experience, this is a very, very complicated, bureaucratic methodology, which is completely not suitable for the fintechs, because fintech is about innovation, about agility, about ideas, about really interesting financial services which are being brought cheaper, faster, in more innovative way. What also has happened that we became bureaucrats. The typical response for the simple employee, which you would get, is actually, we are lacking internal communication. If anybody's here an owner of the company, which is about 100 people, you know what I'm talking about. No, we have to communicate more. We were much better when we were a small amount of people. And this is a very common growth issue. Now, for Paysera, tribes became an answer. A tribe is one of the oldest social structures known for the humankind. It was invented many years ago, naturally, by some of the cultures where people gathered together, have established some kind of internal rules, have assigned roles. Some of them started hunting, some of them were gatherers or food makers, and they survived as a species, and actually outgrown some of the other mammals, which are much bigger, stronger, maybe even better in some way. Also, humanity actually has expanded to the level which we have right now. So it's natural. It empowers the nature's natural behavior. Now, if you'll take a look, let's say, some of the attributes and try to understand when you can call the group of people a tribe, there's a really good book about it, which I can tell you after my presentation if anybody's interested, but I would say 5 are the most important one. First of all, a tribe should have an opportunity to make decisions. They have to be empowered to be not dependent on some kind of superpower. We take the religion aside, but in general, they have to be able to make mistakes because they learn from it, they try from them, and they actually gain the knowledge. The second one, they have to understand, are they a good tribe, or actually are they doing good or bad? So in these days, we call these things goals, KPIs, it doesn't really matter. The third thing is actually have to have really good understanding how do they distribute food, or how do they give things to each other. And also, they have to have an enemy. If they don't, very highly likely, the enemy will be somebody in the tribe, some person or some kind of issue. If you do have enemy, they fight with it. And there's a stupid thing, which is actually very important. They have to have symbols like flags, colors, nationality, language. These are 5 things which you would apply to, like I said, to any group. Very theoretically, they should become autonomous, right? Well, in practice, that's not the only thing which empowers tribe, but it's very close, even in IT words. Now, we did that, and we have actually kind of embraced an amazing growth. 4 times of the requests came from the business to the IT, and about close to 3.5 times we have increased our delivery. Now, typically you have to kind of understand what type of delivery that is. Is it a ticket? Is it a product? Is it some kind of value for the customer? But purely from the data scientific perspective, and a colleague told me before that the data is most important one, we can say that actually we came up with the business requirement, which is amazing. But the amount of people has grown only by quarter. So that literally means that we have, purely from the numbers again, we have increased our efficiency twice. It's very good. So it means it works somehow. Also, if we'll take a look at the backlog, and for the very old company of 20 years, this is very common. Everybody potentially who's in an IT, who knows what the backlog is, has a huge list of things which are either nice to have or have to be fixed. So we have actually cut it by half, which is really, really good. And obviously, a tribe is a composition when the owners and the managers may think amazing. In reality, people may be against this. But this is just because people like to live in comfortable level in an era they understand. And unfortunately, most of the people will always be against kicking out of the comfort zone. So 3 out of 4 people have actually supported this change and even were part of it. So we're not kind of happy with that number. Ideally, would like something to 90, but 75 again, because the transition was very fast. We managed to transition within a year. So, to keep morale up to 75%, I think that's very good. Now that's theory. Let's come to a little bit more funny part. How does a tribe look like? So we have a Houston structure where typically business has a problem. And we gather a mission, typically has a pilot. We call it a mission lead. Imagine this as an isolated startup which is being taken off of the so-called launch pad. So the launch pad is basically just a bunch of people which are working in the same business activity. Let it be, I don't know, somebody was selling VPNs. Okay, VPN is a business activity. So they all stay there, they fix bugs, and a new business opportunity like sale comes over and it has to be built. So you take volunteers, gather them in a team, and launch it as a mission. Now, the best part is that they are typically working independently. They don't maintain any systems. They have fixed budget, and they have a freedom to select the way they are going to do this. Remember about the tribe? Ability to make decisions. So they can take Scrum, they can take Waterfall, they can take anything they want, but the point is that this builds small companies within the company. Obviously, in practice, in a big tribe, only 3 missions can be active at any given point of moment. And also, half of the people are typically, doing the bad job, the boring job of the bug fixing. But in general, that's how it works. It's a simplified, I would say, safe model, but like I said, a tribe is a bigger Scrum team. We have a power to dedicate smaller teams to be isolated to build something amazing. Just out of curiosity, some missions may crash because they are not successful, and as long as you have a very measurable, clear goal till when you're going to fly, it's absolutely okay. All right, going forward, this is a real-life example from one of our tribes. They had the power to select a name, which is called Nova. Don't ask me, I don't know why, but they have explanation. This is a daily banking, or in other words, core banking activities. As you probably have understood, we're asking IT staff to split into tribes by business activity. This is harder than it sounds. They typically want to be technologically independent, while business is always using a business term. So this is daily or core banking, 27 team members, only one launchpad lead. The most important one kind of understands the whole area, and they have a common enemy. And you won't believe that, but this is a regulator who constantly involves new things what a fintech would do in the market. And they have the power. They know they have all integrations, and whenever anybody starts talking about the core banking or daily banking, they're being invited. Interesting enough, you can pick up any person in that tribe. They'll have enough knowledge about this. Okay. So in the future, that works, which is amazing. We would like to go into micro enterprises. This is really difficult, but possible because like I said, they're already autonomous. We have clients inside, and in time, we may actually grow into this. Now, all of this may not be very relevant to any company which is up to 100 people, because typically this is only teams are being formed. Also, it's not relevant to the company which is 2, 3, 500 and more, because that's a corporation. But I think every startup today, which will get investment and will grow to the stage where getting the second seed fund, we're looking for 1 to 20, 25 million, will get here. We'll see that's a problem. When you strive up from the idea and you start talking about the business. So just to recap, like I said, it has to be enterprise at the top, but we have 5 things which we can apply to any 100 team company and grow up to 500. Self-managing teams, no more permits, have some kind of marketplace of ideas and interesting people where you can pick up the business opportunities, open innovation, embrace people to have their own, let's say, ideas as well, because they have to be a power of success. And like I said, involve customers into that. And all of this becomes a tribe. Good. So it wasn't easy. I'll just go quickly from the issues we have faced. First of all, this is a very dangerous stage. I have worked at least 10 different companies. I would say 5 of them have failed, even if the consultants of mine outgrown this. As you know from the statistics, the bankruptcy in a medium-sized company is actually even more common than in a startup which is financially profitable. And this is normal because the growth is difficult. And also, it's very kind of, you have to understand what it delivers, what's the value you're bringing to the customer, and do not rush. We actually didn't follow this, but it's a yearly process. Sometimes it can take a year for a company to grow from 100 to 500 people. And middle management, I would say that's the most important. When you're growing from the 50 people, which is 1 manager, maybe 10 developers, 10 managers, 10 project managers, some designers, you're growing to a structure, which means there'll be a middle management, which is extremely important. So that's pretty much it. If anybody was interested, there are some takeaways you can write down and then remember this presentation. It's a little bit theoretical. If anybody's interested in practice, you can catch up me here anywhere after the stage, because if I'll start digging deeper, I think 15 minutes won't be enough. So thank you very much, and see you soon, I guess.
Thank you so much, Marijus. I have a quick question to you. So one of the things that you mentioned before that in the presentation at the beginning was that, so first of all, it was this triangle, then now it's tribes, and then the future is enterprises, which are not that well connected, which are not that flexible, not that autonomous, but they don't have this connection that much. What do you think we should be, and then you mentioned that we have to have those tribal enterprises kind of thing. How do we actually make sure that we maintain this tribe structure in a team and don't lose this connection between the autonomous teams working? Or we should just, move on, like if we have like 500 team members, we just move on to enterprise and it doesn't matter that much to how to actually manage the team, which is not true, but at the same time. How to actually make sure and what should be done from day 0 and then when we're growing?
It's a very, 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 very good question, actually. The next dangerous part, what the presentation was not about a micro-enterprise, was about tribes, which still maintain the connection because it's one company. In enterprise level, you're going to something like a scale level where teams start separating. And, there are theoretical ways to do that, like corporate synergies. When one company or enterprise can benefit from the other in terms of logistics, innovations. And this is called corporate strategy, which is being taught in universities. In practice, I would say, if you're opening a bar, a pub, if in UK, it can be profitable, but the next profitable level is actually 10 bars. Anything in between, total loss. 2, 3, 5, very theoretically, you may start saving on logistics. In practice, you're starting to empower really difficult, processes which are expensive to maintain. So I would say the only way to maintain connection between the tribes is to be mature enough to have the tribes already, which share some kind of hat already.
So it's all about choosing the right people who are the leading, like the middle managers, right? As you mentioned that they're much more important than sometimes the top management then. The last part of that. Middle management matters more than ever. So it's important to find the people who are going to be managing then the teams which are smaller and then maintain those connections in the tribes.
So it's very common, you know, we have to have middle management, like I said, super important, you know, the ones which are managing the tribes on a management level. And we have some kind of corporate synergies. If they are totally independent, maybe it's time to split the company. Nobody knows. Then also we have to have, you know, maybe whole common enemy, like a competitor.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of attributes, but the point is that many startups and the companies don't even get to tribes level. They become bureaucrats, you know, big corporations. And or they have one person like Elon Musk, which is just trying to push everyone forward, and that's it.
Yes. Thank you so much, Marijus. It was
Thank
really,
you.
really great keynote. We learned a lot, and let's give a round of applause to Marijus. Thank you so much.